Hey, scribes. Happy Thursday, our first official Thursday, right? Actually, no, I'm wrong. This is not even our first official Thursday. Last week was our first official Thursday. See how just time just gets away from you. So happy Thursday and welcome to what I'm calling this kind of like a behind the scenes, a making of my most recent feature story. And I realized that we talk a lot about process here. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of context and information about how I actually put like a particular feature story together to make it happen. It's like, we always see the pretty shiny thing when people complete it, no matter whatever it is, right? If it's Beyonce's homecoming, or if it's a blog post, or if it's a wedding reception, you see the pretty shiny thing that people have presented. So you have no idea of all the blood, sweat, and tears and the practice and then preparation that went into preparing something. So that is my goal today. I want to help you guys do that. Okay, so before we get into that, you know who I am. I am, but for the newbies who may be joining us, I am Taiia Smart Young. I am the face behind this page. I am passionate about helping newbie writers and aspiring writers create influence, impact, and income with their work. And so what I am going to talk about today is really just explaining how I approach this particular assignment, so that when you get your assignments and you are creating your influence, your impact, and your income, you know what to do. And we have our first guest. Hey, this is my mom joining us, you guys. Hey, Mom. Okay, so you know the deal. If you're watching live, hit the hearts button, give me some likes, give me some love. If you are watching this later on the replay, same thing, give me hearts, give me likes, give me love, and leave questions and comments here for me, because I do come back and I read them. And share this video. Don't be stingy. Share the video with your friends on your Facebook timeline, because there is someone who needs this information in terms of how do you put this daggone story together. I got this assignment. Maybe you pitched a publication and now you have an assignment and you don't know what to do. So this is going to help you. Hey, Ma says power and peace be beautiful. Hey, Jean, welcome you guys. Okay, so before I begin, I have to give a shout out to you guys. I have to say thank you to my New York City scribe tribe who came through for the Write and Sip. You guys really supported me. I had this idea in 2018 to do a write and sip. What the heck is a write and sip? Okay, so I have been to a bunch of paint and sips, and it's like, you paint, you sip, you socialize. And I wanted to do that for my small writing community that I am now building. And so what we did was we sipped, obviously, but we also wrote. So I set it up as 3 rounds. And each round had 2 prompts. So you got to pick one prompt. So let's say, for instance, the prompt about writing 3 instructions for your new lover did not work for you. There was another prompt that you could pick from. So 3 rounds, they all had themes. The first theme was 4-letter word, which was love, not the other 4-letter word. The second theme was becoming, evolving. Who are you becoming? And the third theme was confessions. I was all up in your business with the confessions. So I have to say thank you to everyone who came through. Thank you to everyone who said, you know what, I want to attend the next one. And thank you to people who said, can you bring this to Vegas? Like, okay, we're going to bring it to Vegas. We're going on tour with the Write and Sip. And then some people said, can you just do this online? So if you are interested, if you're watching live or if you're watching on the replay, leave an emoji, leave the emoji heart, and let me know if you're interested, because perhaps we can do this in May or in June. Hey, Tiff, welcome. I haven't seen you in a while. So you guys, I love pop culture. I don't need to keep telling you this. But if you guys are fans of Power, then the showrunner, Courtney Kempt Agbo, I think I'm saying her name right, her last name right, and I'm calling her Courtney like she's my girl, right? So at the end of each episode of Power, she does these really cute little chats where she talks about maybe like what was the motivation for Ghost doing a specific action. Why did he go after this person? Why did they have to kill off poor Raina, Ghost's daughter? Why did what made the writers, get upset in the writers' room? Why did they decide a particular course of action or a plot? So think of that. Think of this, what's happening right now, as that. So I just kind of want to give you guys, like, pull that, I give you the example in the email of like when we saw Richard Pryor in The Wiz and we looked behind the curtain and we saw that it was just Richard Pryor and he was not the great and powerful Oz that we thought he was going to be. He was just like a dude in a robe, like calling the shots. So this is me lifting up my robe, not my robe, because y'all need to see what's all up under the robe. I'm just going to lift up the shield, lift up the blanket so you can see a little bit about what goes on in terms of preparing this particular feature story. So first off, I'm going to break this up into 3 parts. So it's going to be the setup, the interview, and then the actual writing process. And you guys, if you have questions, you know the deal. If you have questions while I'm talking, just let me know. So when I write for Essence, I mainly cover entertainment, but I love to cover relationships as well. I was doing a lot of, when I used to write for Ebony, I was doing a lot of relationships content for them, have been trying to do relationships content for Essence. And so I got this email from the relationships editor. She said, hey, T, I'd love for you to tackle this story about diverse couples. It's 1,300 words. It pays this. It's due in 2 weeks. And I need you to get 4 couples. Okay, boom. So I have all my specifics, right? And when I say diverse couples, she means I need couples who are obviously the easiest one, right, that you can think of is interracial couples. So she also wanted couples who are of 2 different faiths, couples who are of 2 different political affiliations, and couples who had maybe like a significant age difference between them. So I'm talking like maybe 15, 20 years. She's not giving these couples to me. I have to go and find these couples, and I only have 2 weeks to do it. And so that's not really bad in general in terms of a deadline. However, if I'm interviewing 4 couples, I got to make it happen really quickly because I got to get these folks on the phone. I don't know where they're going to be. I don't know if we're going to be on the same coast. I don't know what their work schedules are like. So that's the first thing that I usually do is I think about, okay, I need to get on these interviews fast because I got to talk to them. So the first thing I did was I created, and if you are, I didn't send this to my Scribe tribe, but I sent this to my personal email list, friends, family, people I've worked with. I told them, hey, I'm working on this story. It's about couples. I need couples who are in love. And this is the breakdown. They knew the race thing. They knew the religion, et cetera, et cetera. And I told them I need to interview these couples by this date. Now, I never tell anyone the real date that I need to interview people by because I will get people on the very last day. So let's say, for instance, if my story is due May 6th, I am not taking interviews on May 5th. That's just way too late. So I'll tell them, hey, my cutoff date to interview people is May 1st by midnight. So I will stay up all night if you need me to and interview you at, 11:50, but don't come to me on May 2nd unless it's like an outstanding couple and like, you're going to change the game for me. But most of the time you're not. The other thing I do is I hit up social media. I cannot tell you how often you guys come through for me on Instagram and Facebook with people who can help me find couples or sources for my story. If I'm looking for, I need a backpacker who lives in Nebraska or something, you guys come through, you'll say, oh, my cousin Eddie lives in Nebraska. He does X, Y, and Z. Send him an email. And so that's exactly what happened with this story. I immediately posted something and people started rolling in. So here's the thing. I have to expect challenges. So this is all part of the setup, right? I have to expect challenges. What's going to happen? Couples are going to back out, right? She's going to be into it and down and ready, and he's not. He's like, no, I don't want to have my relationship in a magazine. I don't care if we're happy or unhappy. We're not doing it. We're not talking to a national magazine about our business. Okay, fine. Couples are going to drop out. The other thing is I'm going to get overwhelmed, which I did with probably the easiest couple to find in terms of this particular story. And that was my interracial couples. I just had so many interracial couples. It was like, okay, I need other couples, y'all. Send me other people. Let's see. One of the hardest couples that I thought was tough to find was going to be the couple of 2 different political affiliations. And actually, they weren't that difficult to find. So I'm like, okay, we know Black Republicans, right? So automatically we think Herman Cain, we think Clarence Thomas, we think Colin Powell. Come to find out, even Jimmy Walker, who played JJ on Good Times, he's a Republican. But I'm not interviewing Jimmy Walker, right? I need like regular schmegular, just guy, you know, in LA who is married to a Democrat and he's a Republican. And I actually got that couple from a friend. When I sent my email to my friends and family list, she said, hey, I know this great couple. They've been married for 20 something years. They have one son. He's a Republican, but he actually sometimes votes Democrat, and she's a Democrat, and they have very specific political views, very strong political views. Boom. That couple was, what you call it, they went to the top of my list. Let's see. Okay, moving on to the interview portion. So now for I have my couples set up, right? I do a little bit of I vet them, because if you recommend someone to me, I'll say, hey, can you tell me a little bit about this couple? Because just because they fit the criteria of maybe a couple of two different religions for this story doesn't mean that they have this great, wonderful love story that's going to be interesting. Again, Black girl magic, but I can't make the magic happen if I don't know what's going on with this couple. So next part, for the interview portion, I craft probably about 10 or so questions for the couple, which is a challenge because I don't know them. So the only thing that I know about them is this particular thing. They have 10 to 15 years age difference between them. So I craft some general questions for all of the couples, and then I craft maybe like 5 questions that are specific to their particular their love story, whether it's about how did they get together, how do they worship, if they both belong to 2 different religions, how does that work, right? Okay, so the thing is that when I interview celebrities, I can go to their Instagram, I can go to, you know, whatever their I know I can go to their iTunes, I can go to IMDb, I can see all the things that they've done. So I take that same concept, and if the couple that I'm interviewing, if they're on social media, I go and I look for a few things. I want to see if they're on social media, then guess what? That is your diary, because I'm looking for, do they have a pet iguana? Do they have 8 kids? Do they post a lot of travel pics? Because then I'm getting an idea of who this person is, who this couple is, and I'm not just going, you know, into the interview completely blind. Let me check in and see who's over here. Hey, Mo, welcome. Hey, Melissa. So where are we now? Okay, so now I've convinced the people. I have locked them in. I'm about to interview them. You know, I'm looking at my notes over here because I don't want to forget anything. And then the thing is that I love when you guys are like, when I interview people and then I get on their schedule and then I'm like, okay, when can I interview you? And they're like, oh, I work at night, so I can only do the interview on Saturday between, you know, maybe like 7:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. So guess what I do? I have to just get up and interview that person at that time. I just have to make it happen. It doesn't matter if the person tells me they're available at 4:30. If I need to turn my story in at a certain time and they can only make that 4:30 a.m. time call, I'll do it. I have chased rappers. I've chased Grammy award-winning singers. I've chased actors. I have been on everyone's time zone when they needed me to do it. And that's just part of being a writer sometimes. Okay. So now I've done these interviews. So now, mind you, that's 4 couples. So that's 2 people per couple. That's a lot of people to talk to. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, these interviews will take about 30 minutes, right? I'm going to give 15 minutes to him and 15 minutes to her. No. What happens is that I spent an hour on the phone with each couple, because what can happen is that they don't know me. So sometimes there's a trust issue involved. It's like, who is this woman that wants to interview me about my 10-year or 15-year age gap with my spouse? I don't know this person. So sometimes it takes a little bit of warming up, and then they get comfortable and then they share their story. Or we might be talking for 30 minutes and I have no juice. There is nothing that they're telling me that's interesting about their love story. But around minute 45, they're warming up. They're giving me the tea. They're telling me about the ex-wife who didn't want this relationship to happen. And it's like, okay, whoa, now I'm into the good stuff. So sometimes the interview will take way longer than I expect. And then what I do, my number one resource that I use is Rev. I transcribe my interviews. Now, I have this app on my phone called Rev. It's REV. And the website is rev.com. So rev.com. And what I do is I record on my phone, I shoot, send, transcribe, and then they charge me $1 a word. So you guessed it, 60-minute interview is going to be $60. 15-minute interview, $15. So I have to budget myself accordingly, knowing how much I'm going to spend for these particular interviews. Because at this point in the game, if I'm interviewing, let's say my story is due May 6th and I'm interviewing someone on May 1st, it takes a long time to transcribe a 60-minute interview. And I would just rather spend the money and use that time wisely to do something else, to work on other parts of my story. So now I told you I got the interviews done, we've set them up, et cetera, et cetera. We've sent it off to Rev. I've paid my money, my $60 per interview or whatever. Now I have to actually sit down and write the story. So again, it's only 1,300 words. It's 4 pages, it's 1,300 words. So if you're doing the math, that means each couple gets about 325 words. That's not a lot to tell someone's love story, right? So here I have this great couple. She's Black and Mexican. He's white. They met on Bumble, which is the app for where women kind of take the lead in terms of pursuing relationships, pursuing who they want to date. She doesn't set the filter to eliminate, any particular race. She's open to dating all guys of all races. And she meets this guy. He's white. They go on a date. She's like, he's into space. I don't think he's the one. But then she decides, okay, I'm going to give him a chance. We're going to go on a second date. And then fast forward a year and some change later, they are together. So how do I then take all of the particulars that I need in terms of how long have they been together? How did they meet? How do I get all of that synthesized into 325 words? Well, that, my friends, is what we call writing tight and bright. And it is a specific skill. I worked on this a lot when I was at Juicy. It's like the more space you have to write a story, you have 1,500 words to write a story, that's great. But 300 words to write a story, 100 words to write a story, the challenge is really difficult. And you have to get so much into it. And I try to do my best to always not only just give you the juicy parts of the story, but also to give you some aha moments, some things to take away with you in the story. Because like, for instance, the couple of 2 different faiths. So she's Hare Krishna and he's Muslim. And technically, so Hare Krishna falls under Hinduism, right? They're typically, those 2 faiths are at odds. And so for this particular couple to be married for the 20 years or 15 years that they were married is kind of like unheard of. But for them, they've always had an interfaith approach or a universal faith approach to worship, right? When he's fasting, she's fasting too. When she's doing her study, he's studying her religion as well. And they just have, their thing is that we're open to Christianity, we're open to Judaism, we're open to everything. And that makes their relationship stronger, because they're not like, oh, my God is the greatest and, we can't worship Allah. They don't have that approach at all. And so my challenge is, how do I figure out a way of bringing all of that colorfulness to life? And this particular couple, they had 19 children. So some of those were obviously from previous relationships because they had both been married before, but 19 children. And so there's so many stories there. I definitely spent more than an hour on the phone with this couple because they had so much life experience and so much to say about relationships and about love. One of the things that I learned from that particular couple is that love is service. I was like, what do you mean by love is service? And it's really about, obviously you're putting yourself as an important part of that relationship, but you're also putting the other person as an important part of the relationship. And she said, that's something that we forget, especially as we're together for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, etc. We forget, we take the person for granted. So love is service was my biggest takeaway from that couple. So one of the things I do, and I'm going to wrap up here because I do have a call shortly, is that one of the things I do is once I get my transcript from Rev, so Rev will send me in 24 hours, they will send me my transcript of my interview, and then I go through it and I highlight all the like key points. And mind you, I only have 325 words. So everything is not going to fit into this story. So what I try to do is find that particular one little nugget that I can kind of hang the entire story on. So for the couple that is of two different, and thank you so much for the hearts and the love, you guys, the couple that is from two different political affiliations, they actually are from Brooklyn. They have one kid. And the interesting thing about them is that they never seem to argue about being, him being a Republican and her being a Democrat. They accept each other. But they have these really interesting conversations. They call them debates, right? Because they'll talk about Trump, they'll talk about Obama, they'll talk about Clinton, they'll talk about policy. And it never gets, their conversations are never mean-spirited and never toxic. And they feel like that's, one of the reasons why people and couples break up is because they don't learn to accept certain things about each other. It's like, you knew he was a Republican when you got with him, and now you're going to act shocked 5 years later and you want him to change. That part of it is not going to happen, right? But so, and their thing is that that's like kind of like off limits, and they know that if the conversation gets too heated, then it's time to, put that conversation to bed, and it's time to walk away. Because if they agree on 99.9% of the things in their relationship, then that small percentage, they're not willing to just throw it away for that thing that we disagree on certain political issues or matters. So let me check in with you guys and see if you guys have any questions. Hey, son, you are never late. That's my son right there. You are never late. Hey, Christelle, where you been? So you guys, I just wanted to take time to tell you how sometimes I put a story together. So that particular story required a lot of interviewing and conversations and back and forth. And one thing that I didn't mention was that a lot of times when I'm given a story and it's like, okay, go find these people, sometimes the editor might say, well, hey, in this particular case, it was, hey, Dominique Dawes is in an interracial relationship. I'd love for you to interview her. So she was suggested to me, and I was so excited because I was like, oh my God, awesome. Come on, she's like the first Black woman to win a gold medal, if I'm not mistaken. So I was so excited to interview her. I had traded emails with Dominique Dawes for 3 days, and then she had gotten sick, and then her kids got sick, so we did not end up making this interview happen, and she didn't end up in the story. But that was just a great moment for me, because I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. I'm going to have her as the celebrity couple, this who's in an interracial relationship. And then another thing that happened that I didn't mention, I'm gonna check in with you guys in these comments in a second. Hey, Stephanie. I'm just getting everyone today. And Voyager Elementary School is checking in too. I just love it. Yes, you guys, love is service. So one of the things that happened too, and I was so disappointed because, when you interview people, you run the risk of sometimes their portion of the interview does not make the story. So I was all excited, got my, cause I got my Essence on my, on my phone. I went to magster.com so I can have all my magazines in one place. That's MAGZTER. You can sign up for a subscription if you want to. I get no money from this. There's no affiliation. There's no sponsorship. But it is the April issue with Issa Rae on the cover. Issa Rae from Insecure, from Awkward Black Girl. She looks beautiful. She's in her white. So anyway, the story was slated as 4 pages. You know what happened? At the very end, before they went to press, my story got cut down to 3 pages. So one of the couples actually didn't make it into the magazine. And I felt so bad because that was the couple that had the age difference. And they're such a loving couple, had such a good story. She is younger than him. He was like, listen, this is a good looking woman right here. They actually met back in the day on an AOL chat room, and they're still going strong. They had to wait a while in terms of getting married. They had, she had her children. They have a child together. So there was so much that I was excited about for this particular story, especially because the woman in the story, I knew her from high school, and I was so happy to reconnect with her, but also happy to hear her story and how they got together and how they are, despite the age difference, what challenges are there in terms of the age difference. And what didn't make it into my final story was the thing about sex. I loved that he was honest. He was like, listen, I'm in my 50s. I can't stroke it like I used to, but I'm still 100%, but maybe he might not have as much energy as he used to. So it was just, that was a funny story to me. It was definitely loving, but they got cut. But on the upside, they didn't make it into the magazine. However, they're going to be, when they post the story online, it's going to be on essence.com. So you guys, you guys check that out shortly. If when it's live, I'm gonna post the link here in the group so you guys can check it out. And before I go, let me just see what questions, if any, you guys have over here. Son and my mother are talking in these comments over here, talking about, I'm trying to get her to do another write and sip. You guys, I am down to do another write and sip. I just have to figure out when I'm going to do it. And I definitely want to do it live, because the fact just having us there as a community and writing together and sharing, I ask a lot of questions in terms of like your motivation, dig deeper, let's talk about that. I ask all of those questions. So I love that aspect of it live, but then I also have people who are like, well, can we do it online? So I gotta give the people what they want. I just got to figure that out. So I'm going to trust that Son and my mom are going to stay on my back. Son, I looked on essence.com, and the story is not live there yet, but hopefully it will be. If you happen to be in, like, I don't know, Barnes and Noble, Rite Aid, Walgreens, and you see that April 2019 issue with Issa Rae on the cover, cop that and check out my story. Let's see. Any questions? Christelle says she gave up social media for Lent, and I totally understand, girl. Sometimes we just need a social media detox, but because I rely on it for so many things, that when I do detox, when I get back, I'm like a crackhead. I'm like, I'm just ready to get back into it. I want to see what's going on. What did I miss? Let's see. No questions. Jean, why are you freezing? I don't see any questions. So thank you, Son, for saying that you will cop that. I appreciate it. So you guys, I am going to sign out because I have a call with a client. And while I love having these classes with you guys, I gotta, talk to my clients, and I got to give them their comments and feedback on their stories. So if you are not part of my Scribe Tribe, if you look up in the description of what this live is about, there's a link there for you to join. If you're already there, no worries. You are already receiving the emails and the updates about what's going on, events, classes, etc., new t-shirts. All of that stuff is always in my email. So I will see you guys next week. Have a good one. Talk soon. Don't forget, leave me, leave me comments, whether you're watching live or on the replay. Absolutely. Before I go, got to answer this from Voyager Elementary. Voyager Elementary says you should publish your short stories, especially the ones that don't make it into the magazine. Absolutely. I was trying to wait for that Essence link, but I may have to just go ahead and do that. You're absolutely right. I may have to just go ahead and do that. E. Marie says, which is my mom, she says Pat is from London. So we got international requests. We got Vegas, we got international. I just love that y'all have this faith in me. And Chriselle says, I can't wait for the next write and step. Chriselle, you are in Long Island, Strong Island. So I do expect you at the next one. And hey, if you want to have me come to Long Island, we can discuss that too. We can talk about a venue. We can talk about you getting your fellow writers together, and we can do that. So, I'm always open to new ideas. You guys have an awesome Thursday. Have an awesome weekend, and I will see you next week. Take care.